Hello and welcome to day one of the video series. So today I'm going to be talking all about how to find your maintenance calories and how to figure out whether you should be going into a calorie deficit for weight loss or if you should be doing a reverse diet leading back up to your maintenance calories because you've been eating for too low for too long. So as a nutrition coach, I have had a lot of women who come to me and want to jump directly into a calorie deficit phase or a weight loss phase. But after diving in a little bit deeper and figuring out where they are currently, which I'm going to show you how to do in just a minute, I found that their body is not at a point where they're able to lose more weight without dropping into an unsafe level of calories. And so nobody wants to be eating 1,000 calories per day in order to lose weight. So I'm going to be talking about the very big importance of a reverse diet and staying at maintenance calories for the majority of the year. And then I'm going to go into how to get into a calorie deficit. If you are at a point in your journey where you have been at maintenance calories or maybe have been in a surplus for a little while unknowingly and have been gaining weight over the past few years and you're ready to hop into a calorie deficit. So I'm going to be sharing my screen here. And let me see if I can move this. Oops. Okay. So, all right. So how to calculate your reverse diet or your calorie deficit. And these are evidence-based formulas for calculating your numbers specifically for you. A lot of women, myself included, years ago, think that we're all supposed to be eating 1,600 calories or 1,200 calories in order to lose weight, but we're all very unique individuals. We have a very unique metabolism that has been affected by our genetics, which plays a huge role. Chronic dieting, it has been affected by a lot of different things. So we're very individualized people, and we have to have individualized numbers. So scrolling down here, first we're going to find your BMR. And so this is going to look like a lot of math. And trust me, from somebody who never thought I'd be using math in my everyday life like this, it looks like a lot, but I promise it's very simple once you put your stats in, and I show you at the end how to do that. And this is a freebie for you guys too. So if you do want this, let me know below. Comment. You can also DM me on Instagram at evolvingwithkatehoyler, or you can email me at katehoyler1@gmail.com. So you will have this for your own information, but I'm going to go through it with you here first so that you can understand it and then do it yourself later. So first we're going to find your BMR or your basal metabolic rate. And this is a calculation based on multiple factors for how many calories your body burns at rest just by living, breathing, digesting, blinking, creating red blood cells, like the minimum amount of calories your body needs to function without even doing things like walking or doing your daily activities like your chores, going to work, eating, all that kind of stuff. So there are two different formulas, one for women and one for men. There are also a few other different formulas for this equation. I think there's like 5 different ones, and they're all very similar, but this is the one that I have been using for calculating my clients' information for the past few years. So that is the women's and that is the men's. It does make a difference because, again, we're all very different. So now that you have your BMR, we're going to do a calculation to find your total daily energy expenditure, or your TDEE. And this is how many calories your body burns based on your BMR and your activity level. So 1.2 is sedentary, 1.375 is lightly active, 1.55 is moderately active, 1.75 is very active, and 1.9 is extremely active. So I have never used very active or extremely active for any of my clients. I don't work with athletes or people who train 2 times a day, things like that. Most of my clients fall between lightly active and moderately active. And now with everything going on with social distancing, I'd say most of us are around the lightly active, unless you're making a very big point to get 10,000 steps per day, exercise a few times a week, then you'd maybe go to the moderately active. But most of us would be between lightly and moderately, I think, at this point, with gyms closed and not being able to really leave the house very much. And so I explained there what I usually do for my clients. Most people do tend to overestimate their activity level, and that can kind of cause us to think that we should be eating more than we are. But you can play around with that a little bit. And again, I show an example below right here that we're going to go into to show you how easy it is to figure it out. So this is just a random example. I just made these numbers up. So a 28-year-old female, 150 pounds, works out 3 times per week, cardio 2 times per week, and it's 5'8". Excuse me. So first we're going to find her BMR, and we're going to plug in her information up here. So I plugged in, 150, 68 for inches, and she's 28 years old. And so this is saying that for this woman in particular, she should be eating about 1,500 calories, like absolute minimum for her BMR. And again, that's without any of her activity level. So then we scroll down a little bit and we find out that her TDEE is between the sedentary and light. So depending on some information I've received about her and her dieting history through a phone call that I do with my clients, and how hard she's actually training in the gym or at home now, I will choose her maintenance calories, and they're probably around 2,000. For maintenance calories, there's pretty much a range. So it's not like we're saying, okay, if she eats 2,001 calories, then she's going to gain weight, or if she eats 1,958 calories, she's going to lose weight. There's a little bit of a range. Again, these are just calculations. It doesn't take into account us as individuals. So just use this number with a grain of sand, take it with a grain of salt. This is just like a generalized number that we can go off of. So perfect. Now that we have her maintenance calories, aka the calories she needs based on her stats to maintain her current body, we have to figure out how many calories she's currently taking in. This is very important because many women come to me saying they want to go on a weight loss phase, and after figuring out their maintenance calories of 2,000 per day, we find out that maybe she's currently only eating 1,200 to 1,400 calories per day, which doesn't allow us to go into a fat loss phase, because if she's supposed to be eating 2,000 per day and she's only eating 1,200 per day, she's already supposedly in a deficit. But her body has now adapted to that very low intake for an extended period of time, and so her maintenance calories aren't really technically 2,000. Her body has adjusted to the low, so unless we go lower than 1,200 calories, she won't lose any more weight. And as a coach myself, I will never take anybody below that number because it's not safe and it's not healthy. And so what I do is I talk about the importance of a reverse diet, which I'll talk about in just a second. So the way that we figure out how many calories she's actually taking in is by having her track and use an app called MyFitnessPal. There's a bunch of different ones. There's one called My Macros Plus. I think there's another one called Chronometer. I have just always used MyFitnessPal over the last several years, and that's what I use with my clients. I just find that it's pretty easy, user-friendly, and straightforward. So I don't have them like plug in their information or anything like that to find their maintenance calories because, again, I already just found their maintenance calories for them. But we do use that app to figure out how many calories they're currently taking in. So I just have them enter in their breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, drinks, everything that they're ingesting over the period of 7 to 14 days. And that will give us a true idea of how many calories that person is averaging, because we can easily say, oh, I'm only taking in 1,200 calories, but maybe that's just during the week, and then on the weekends, we're blowing it out of the water, which I've seen a lot. So for example, 1,200 calories Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then 3,200 calories Friday and Saturday, and about 2,800 on Sunday. That brings us back to an average of 2,000 calories per day, which is maintenance. So it seems like you'd be in a deficit throughout the week, and then we kind of way overdo it on the weekends, and that brings us back to being in a maintenance. So that's why you're not really losing weight. And it seems like 3,200 calories is a lot, but once you factor in alcohol, which adds up very, very quickly, and things like pizza, ice cream, donuts, French toast, like if you go out to dinner, or a lot of people right now, before the whole social distancing thing, we're going out to eat, brunch on Saturday, dinner on Saturday night, and then brunch on Sunday again. And all those times at restaurants add up so quickly. Most restaurant meals are at least 1,000 calories, at least. And that's just at the very minimum. So with all the oils and things that they put in to make it flavorful, it adds up very quickly. So 3,200 on each day on the weekends isn't too crazy. With social distancing, I'm sure it is a little easier to be under that, but still with overeating due to like our like feeling sad and just overeating to pass the time out of boredom, it adds up pretty quick. So great, now that she's tracked for 7 to 14 days, and we found that she's truly eating 1,200 to 1,400 calories per day. So it's not the example that I gave here. We found that maybe she truly is eating 1,200 to 1,400 calories every day throughout those 7 to 14 days. Her weekends are the same as her weekdays. And she's been doing this for months. She cannot go into a calorie deficit at this time because her intake is already too low. This is the hardest thing for women to understand because they don't want this to be their reality. And I've worked with so many women who are in this position, and the women who accept what it is and go through this reverse diet feel so much better afterwards, because when you're so low for so long, your digestion is off. You have a lot of bloating and gut issues. You're tired all the time. You can't build muscle. You can't lean out because your body doesn't have enough energy to even support what you're doing on a daily basis. So the ones who really accept that this is the reality and go through this process of repairing their metabolism for a few months, 2 to 3 months, for some people, then they're able to go into a calorie deficit down the line. But what I do recommend is going through the reverse dieting process. And this means that we're slowly adding in calories over time, about 50 to 100 calories every week or every other week, to allow the body to slowly adapt to the increased intake as we allow our metabolism to be repaired. When we eat too low for too long, our body adapts to those low intakes and slows our metabolism down. This is a life-saving mechanism that keeps us from starving to death. So the only way to repair it is to feed the metabolism. And it sounds counterintuitive, but again, you can't diet or go into a calorie deficit if you're already eating 1,200 calories. You'd have to eat, 1,000 calories per day, and that's just, it's so unhealthy. So how long this process will take is dependent upon how long and how low the person was dieting previously. It typically takes about 2 to 3 months, but allows us to successfully go into a fat loss phase following it, because the body is in a healthy state to lose weight now without having to drop calories to scary low levels. And again, I've worked with a lot of women who find that when they're at maintenance calories, they feel so much better. So they don't really even want to go into a calorie deficit. And if they do, it's months down the line. And that's just like tighten things up a tiny bit. But it is a really eye-opening process for a lot of women. And I will say most of the women who have to go through this are between the ages, like that I've worked with, between the ages of about 40 to 60. A lot of women are in this position where they were doing the whole slim fast shakes for years, 3 a day with minimal extra calories. And they've just been honed in on eating 1,200 calories for years and years and years. This is definitely not ideal, as most women want to just dive into a calorie deficit. I know I've been there before, but we have to earn the right to diet by properly fueling our bodies first. And having a coach during a reverse diet can help immensely, because it's a very, very mental journey. So now we're going to talk about going into a calorie deficit. So now if maybe this person has done the reverse diet, they've been fueling their body properly and eating at their maintenance for a while, or maybe you're somebody who has already been eating at maintenance unknowingly for a while, or maybe you've even been in an unknowing surplus and you've been gaining weight over the last several years. And so now you would be ready to go into a calorie deficit because your body has enough storage. So we can choose either a 10% deficit, 15% deficit, or 20%. A 10% is a light, 15 is moderate, and 20 is a decent deficit. And so 10% of the 2,000 calories that we found from the example above, remember this is just one example, would be 1,800 calories. 15% deficit would be 1,700 calories, and a 20% deficit would be 1,600 calories. For this example, we're going to start her at her calorie deficit in the middle, around 1,700 calories. Way too many people try to just slash 500 calories right off the bat. I used to do this myself, and I know a lot of my friends who do this too. It's not helpful to do that. This is very detrimental in most cases because you start out on very low calories and then you have nowhere to go when our metabolism drops in correlation with our decreased intake. So like I mentioned before, our bodies are very, very smart. So if we're in a deficit, if we dropped to 1,500 calories right away, 4 weeks in, your body would start to adapt to that low intake and you'd have to drop even lower. And then you get to too low calories and it's just not healthy. When we eat and intake less food, our body exerts less energy, aka lowers our metabolism in order to survive. This means that if you jump from 2,000 calories to 1,500 right away, your body will adjust and you'll have to go lower and lower. And that's where most people get burnt out. I've seen a lot of people say that they couldn't stick with macros because it wasn't sustainable, but that's because they dropped way too low, way too quickly, and then they never reverse dieted back up to their maintenance calories. So 1,700 is now her starting calorie deficit. She'll then figure out her macros if she chooses to go that route and start tracking her daily intake to reach 1,700 calories. She'll stay here for a few weeks, be consistent, and continue losing weight. So I don't go into how to get your individual macros because that's something I work on with my clients, but this is a great area to start. And now it's your turn. Use the formulas above to simply plug in your statistics and get started on your way to weight loss. And just a big PSA, this is not where she should be staying for the rest of her life. We are not meant to be in a calorie deficit our entire life. Our hormones will adapt to the lower intake and slow down. So it is imperative to take diet breaks and reverse diet back up to our maintenance calories every few months to repair our hormones and fuel our bodies properly. So as you've seen here, I mean, the concept of a reverse diet is very new to most women. When I first heard about this years ago, I was blindsided. I was like, why is nobody talking about this? We know how to lose weight. Women are very aware of how to lose weight, but we don't know how to get back to maintenance. And so really ensuring that you go through this phase of weight loss, get to your goal weight, and then start adding calories back in slowly every week or every other week to get back to your maintenance calories is how you keep off the weight, keep your metabolism healthy, and not get burnt out. So that is it for today. Just a little tip here. I am reopening a few spots for my one-on-one coaching until the end of the week. Friday, I think it's the 10th or the 11th. It is the 10th, Friday the 10th. So if you are interested in learning more about this, learning more about how to finally achieve goals that you've been working on, or maybe just want the accountability of having a coach, check out my website, coachedbykate.com, and we'll hop on a call, or you can shoot me an email at katehoyler1@gmail.com, and we'll see if we'd be a great fit to work together. But that is it for today. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a video on how to plan out your day in MyFitnessPal to help make sure that you actually reach your macros and that you're able to stay within the ranges and be successful. So please let me know any questions that you have, and have a good rest of your day.